Welcome to our webinar called Cultivating Your Customers, The Secret to Higher Profits. Our presenter today is Corinna Bench, founder of My Digital Farmer and co-owner of Shared Legacy Farms in Ohio. I am Larissa McKenna, FACTS Humane Farming Program Director, and I'll be moderating this session. Also with us today is Samantha Gasson, FACTS Humane Farming Program Associate. So thank you all for joining us. Let me just take a minute to introduce FACT and give you a little background about us. Food Animal Concerns Trust, or FACT, we are a national nonprofit organization. We're headquartered in Illinois, and we work to ensure that all food-producing animals are raised in a humane and healthy manner. We accomplish this by supporting humane farmers, such as everyone out there in the audience, promoting policies that make food from animals safe and healthy to eat, and then also helping consumers make informed food choices. So I direct FACTS Humane Farming Program along with Sam. We work with livestock and poultry farmers from all across the country, and we offer grants, scholarships, personalized materials, mentorship, and of course, webinars on many fascinating topics. I also want to mention that we are currently accepting applications from farmers who are interested in our financial training program. We're offering some subscriptions for on-demand courses and also the opportunity to participate in a 4-day intensive virtual bootcamp workshop. And this is all through the Food Finance Institute. So the deadline to apply for this year's programming is midnight on October 31st, so coming up pretty quickly on Sunday. I just ask everyone to visit our website to learn more about this opportunity and all of our other farmer services. So at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Samantha, who's going to introduce our guest presenter.
Thank you, Larissa. And I'm really sorry, my dogs are playing in the background and they cannot go outside because we're processing turkeys today. And so they have to stay inside. So I apologize for that. Hopefully they won't be too loud. Corinna Bench, I first became familiar with Corinna Bench during COVID when we had to make a bit of a switch with the way we were selling, and somebody mentioned that I should check out My Digital Farmer. So I did, and I've been an avid listener of Corinna's podcast, and I can't say enough wonderful things about her. She is absolutely amazing. I promised I wouldn't gush too much, so I won't. I'll stop here. All right, but this is a little bit about Corinna. She is an entrepreneur, a CSA farmer, speaker, podcaster, consultant, and educator who is committed to helping CSA farmers build CSAs that are profitable and viable for the long term. Since 2008, she and her husband are full-time farmers at Shared Legacy Farm in Elmore, Ohio, where they manage a 425-member CSA customer base. Now that boasts a retention rate near 90%, which is pretty amazing. Corinna is the founder of MyDigitalFarmer.com, which is dedicated to helping farmers master the art of messaging, sales, and customer management for their CSA. She is also a promoter of the National CSA movement and serves as a collaborator with the CSA Innovation Network. She also hosts the My Digital Farmer podcast and the CSA Marketing Discussion Facebook group. And you can follow her on Instagram at My Digital Farmer and at SL Farms 2. And I can put those in the chat. But pretty excited to have Corinna. She's got a lot of wonderful things to say. You guys are going to get a lot out of this webinar. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the virtual mic over to Corinna. Take it away, Corinna.
Well, thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. It's Corinna. I'm so excited to be here, and this is one of my favorite topics today. We're going to be talking all about cultivating customers and how that's actually, I have found, the secret to higher profits in your business. So I wanted to give everyone a chance to see me here for a second, but I am going to actually shut down my video because it's a little distracting to me. So let me just get rid of my webcam here. There we go. I'm really glad you're here. This is going to be about an hour-long webinar. I have a ton of slides, but I have a lot of good information to get through. So thanks for joining me. We're going to dive deep into how we take care of our clients. How do we provide amazing customer service? How do we cultivate them so that they want to come back again and again. And I want to start out by telling a story about my son, Jed. This is Jed Bench. He's in 8th grade, and he is really into RC airplanes. Now, this started about a year and a half ago when he stumbled upon a group of guys, a group of YouTubers on Flight. They were called flighttest.com. They have a YouTube channel, and he started following these guys. They build airplanes out of foam board and all kinds of stuff, and they fly them around. And he got hooked. He watched them fly all kinds of strange contraptions through the sky. And eventually he came up to me and said, Mom, I want to buy one of their kits. I want to try and make an RC airplane myself. And so he got that for Christmas and he put it together. He tried to fly it. It was a total bomb. It was an utter fail, crashed and burned. He was really upset, but not to be daunted. He tried again and we bought him another kit. And this time we got him a different one that was a little bit easier. And he had success with that. He watched a few of their coaching videos. He figured out how to build it more properly. He got one that was a little bit easier to fly for a beginner. And he loved it. He absolutely fell in love with it. And soon thereafter, he came up to me and said, Mom, I want to buy another one. And so at that point, I was like, well, how about you buy another one? You can use your allowance money and so just some of your own money to start purchasing it. And sure enough, that's what began. He turned into a super buyer. I would say about every 3 weeks, he was getting another kit and watching another YouTube video where they were releasing the next version of the next plane that they had just built. So I tell this story because it's a great example of how a company has turned our family into a super fan. And so I want us to ask, what did Flight Test do to turn him into a disciple? I mean, he is a disciple of this brand. What is driving our loyalty? And we ultimately want to create customers like Jed for our farm business, right? People that are really into us, that come back to our farm stand or to our roadside stand or our farmer's market or a CSA again and again and buy more and more and more things, right? If you look at the average lifetime value of Jed for Flight Test, I mean, we've probably already spent $1,000 with them. And so we want that to happen for our farms too. So that is what I want to talk about. How do we cultivate a loyal super buyer like this? Because it didn't happen overnight. This is not something that as a marketer, you just acquire a customer and they turn into this right away. And so what is driving this loyalty? So we're going to talk about what this cultivation looks like. So here's what you're going to discover in today's webinar. We're going to talk about why customer retention is actually more important than new customer acquisition and why you need to be spending more resources on that. That customer retention doesn't just happen. We're going to talk about something called the excite phase and why you must learn to build a system around it. And at the end, I'm going to share several customer strategies that cultivate this customer loyalty. Don't worry, there's like 8 strategies. It's going to be the bulk of our webinar. I couldn't stop. I had to keep going. So there's a lot of good stuff today. Real briefly, this is who I am. I am actually a CSA farmer for 14 years now. My husband and I have a 400-member CSA, a vegetable farm. We're located in Northwest Ohio near Toledo. And about 4 years ago, I decided I needed to start getting better at marketing because I had no idea what I was doing. And so I am all self-taught. And the things that I learned from my marketing mentors blew me away and they changed the course of my business. And I began to share those things with farmers because I know a lot of us don't know that stuff. We're really good at growing our stuff or producing our product, but not necessarily, we don't really know how to sell it. And so that became my mission, was to help other farmers get better at making money that way. And so I started something called mydigitalfarmer.com. I started doing, I have a podcast where I teach marketing strategies. I have a Facebook group, an Instagram account, and I even have an online course where I teach people how to make brand new CSAs from scratch. So that's kind of my background. Now, let's move on to the next slide. I thought I clicked it. Hang on. Here we go. All right, so this is what, we missed a slide. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back. There's a delay. There we go. So why should we focus on customer cultivation. Why is this such a big deal? Well, I don't want you to miss this. Number one, your customer is on a journey through your brand, and she or he will pass through several stages over the course of their time with you. Remember my son Jed, right? He didn't turn into an instant fan in one day. There were some things that happened before that. And so you must understand as a business owner what these stages are and coach her or him through those stages to that ultimate status of superfan. Now, I'm going to show you a picture. This is called the customer value journey. And this is the marketing framework on which my entire business is built. This is what I was taught by my own marketing coaches. So many farmers don't even know that there is a framework, that there is something like this, this concept of a journey. You build loyalty in stages. And if you're having trouble finding customers or keeping customers or making money with your customers, it may be because you have a bottleneck in one of these sections. So I'm going to briefly go through this. So at the very bottom left corner, we have a customer who looks kind of sad face, like they come to you with a problem, right? There's some need that they want met. In many cases, they're not even aware that you exist. Then somehow, because of your amazing marketing, they become aware that you exist. And then the next stage is they begin to engage with you. Now, notice they haven't bought anything yet, but they start to engage with you. Maybe they talk with you at the farmer's market, or maybe they start watching your videos on social, or they start scrolling your social feed. Um, and then eventually they graduate into that next box of the subscribe phase where you actually get their contact information so that you can follow up with them. Maybe you get their email address. Maybe you get them to write it down at the market on a piece of paper. Or maybe they even leave you a phone number. And so now you have a way to follow up with them. The next step is that they actually convert. They actually purchase their first product with you. In many cases, it's your flagship product, or sometimes it's just kind of an entry-level product. And in that moment, there's this key shift that happens in their mind where they have purchased money with you. They have put money into the equation, and that now they're more invested in you. Now, the box after that, the excite phase, is where we're going to spend most of today, because this is a piece that most people completely ignore in their business. The excite phase is the moment after a person purchases your product, and you want them to be so excited when they actually consume it and use it. You want them to experience success, so that when that happens, they go back and they buy more things. And that's what that ladder represents. They ascend through your products, through the entire product suite. They buy more and more. And every time you offer another thing to them, they have an amazing experience and they're excited all over again. Now, once you do this enough times, you turn them into what's called an advocate. This is where you actually try to get them to leave you a review or a testimonial so that they speak out into the world that they love you so much. And then they move into this ultimate stage of being a promoter for you, where they actually end up kind of becoming your marketing ambassador. Okay, so this is the basic overarching framework of marketing, and we build systems for each section. If you have an issue in your marketing, it's probably because you don't have a system built around one of these areas. So why are we focusing on the cultivation part? Well, number one, retention leads to more profit. So if you can actually retain a person after they bought from you for the first time, they're going to buy more often and they're going to spend more than a brand new customer. Okay, so it pays to actually invest some energy in this. The secret to increasing your profits is not to acquire more customers. The key is to retain the ones you have and get them to just buy everything in your store multiple times. I can't emphasize that enough. Like, you can have a very profitable business with a very small customer base if you have trained them to love your stuff and just keep getting more and more of it. Now, the other reason we want to focus on cultivation is because of referrals. Satisfied customers are much more likely to sing your praises and refer their friends, which are often a lot like them, who have the same values, who would probably love your product, which brings you more customers at no charge to you. So referrals is a huge, huge reason why we want to pay attention to really taking care of the people we already have. And finally, affordability is another key reason. So it's actually 5 to 25 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to retain an existing one. This is according to HubSpot. And it makes more sense if you take a look at that image down there in the bottom right corner. I mean, look how many boxes your client has to pass through before they finally become a paying customer, right? That's a long time to coach someone, to cultivate them, to warm them up, get them ready to finally buy, get them to trust you. And so, of course, it's going to be a lot more expensive to get them to that point. Why not spend that energy on the people you already have and make sure that we give them an amazing customer experience after that purchase? So you are shepherding your clients through a longer process. You're taking care of them. You're making them feel special. You're helping them achieve success so that they turn into a super buyer. And that doesn't just happen. There are some things that you should be doing as a business owner to encourage that process, for it to be more likely that it happens. Now, for today's webinar, we're going to focus on 3 key areas: the excite phase, the ascend phase, and the promoter phase. But marketing is all of it. It's this entire journey. And if you want to get better at marketing, I teach people how to create systems for each section, because you really need to have all of them working together in order to churn people through the system. Not everybody will make it through the system. Not everybody is your ideal client, by the way. But for the people who are, if you have a process that shepherds them through this, they will turn into those super buyers and buy more and more things from you. So today, the overarching question that I want to challenge you with is, what if you spent more time and attention on coaching your customers, cultivating those customers to the finish line? What could that look like for you? And we're going to actually talk through that right now. What does this look like in practice? How do we excite and amaze our customers so that they'll move into that super fan phase? Now, before I actually share these strategies with you, I'm going to make an assumption that I think is key. I'm going to assume that you have a great product. I can't emphasize this enough, because if your product isn't good, people don't achieve success, or it's poor quality, there's nothing that great marketing can do to save you. A person will not come back and buy it again if it's not good. So we're just going to assume that you've worked those kinks out, and that what we need to figure out now are the systems to help acquire customers and help them achieve success. Okay, so just wanted to make sure that I said that. All right, let's talk about strategy number 1. And this is actually a little bit more generalist, but it's an important place to start. I actually feel like all great marketing starts here. You actually, as a business owner, you need to identify and attract your ideal customer. And this is actually a part of cultivating and coaching a customer. Not everyone who tries to buy from you is your perfect client. And you're going to have a whole bunch of people that come to your roadside stand or purchase from your online store for the first time who probably aren't really the perfect fit for you. And so poor customer retention is largely the result of attracting the wrong fit into your business in the first place, because not all customers are created equal. I have certain customers, I can list them by hand, list them on one hand, who are my super buyers, and they all have very similar characteristics and values, right? And then I can list another subset of people that don't buy a whole lot of stuff from me, or only come and see me once in a blue moon, and they don't have the same value for our business, right? That makes sense. So getting the right people into your business from the beginning will translate to fewer people leaving out the back door later. So let me just share an example of 2 different customers that I have, Steph and June. Actually, June is no longer a customer in our CSA. Stephanie has been with our CSA for 6 or 7 years now. She actually comes and volunteers on harvest nights at our CSA almost every week, without feeling the need to be compensated. She's not a work share. She just loves to come. She's very invested in our business. And she also buys a lot of things in the online store in addition to our CSA. Like from week to week, we have other things that we offer, and she'll often purchase additional things. She talks us up to her friends. She has brought me customers. She is like my perfect person, and she values local. She values the farmer. She's trying to get to know us. June, on the other hand, very sweet woman, but she just never really clicked with our farm. She didn't really connect with us. She was always a little disappointed in the CSA box. She's like, oh, I really just wish I could get what I want. And it's like, you know what, June, you really should probably just be a farmer's market customer because that's more your style. Okay. So since we're a CSA farm predominantly, like that just didn't fit our mojo. And so when I look at these two customers, they're both equally sweet. But one of them is definitely a super buyer. One of them is bought into our mission. One of them wants to get behind us and will do anything for us. Okay. So one of the things I always coach farmers and when they're getting their businesses put together is like, you want to do some research to identify your perfect Stephanie. Who is that client for you? And you're going to have a different looking person than I do because I know you all don't have CSAs necessarily. So you're trying to figure out like, what do they value the most about you? What problem are you solving for them? Or how are you helping them achieve some deeper desire? Why do they keep coming back? Do you know the answer to that? Have you ever asked them in a survey or have you ever interviewed some of your super fans? Like there's something else besides your product itself that's drawing them back to you. I can assure you it's not just the quality of your food. It's something else, an even deeper need. And what does success look like for them? And how is your product helping them get to that success? So when you know the answers to some of these questions, you'll start to see patterns if you actually interview some of your best clients. And you'll be able to use their answers, the things they talk about. They'll surface to the top, and you can use that research to help you actually design marketing that attracts people just like them, right? You want to clone the Stephanies of your business. And the only way you're going to know that is if you talk to them and figure out what is it that you love about me? And then you talk about that stuff wherever you can in your marketing. So this is the first thing you've got to understand. If you want to cultivate the right customer, if you want to cultivate a customer so that they'll stay, you got to get the right customers in the door. And you have to be okay with the fact that not all of them are, and that's okay. It's okay if you repel some people. I repel people every week. And I'm willing to let that happen so that I can get the ones that really fit my business. Okay. Once I get those people in, once I've helped them self-qualify during the sales process, they're easy to cultivate. They're like waiting, they're ready. Okay. So that was kind of the first step that I wanted to talk about here. Now, the second strategy is a really big one. And I find that many farmers are resistant to this because they're like, I do not have time for this, but I'm going to push back. Teach your customers how to use your product. What can you do to make it more likely that they will achieve success with your food? Don't assume that they know how to do it. So let's go back to the story of my son, Jed. How did flight test assure success for my son? They didn't just, hope he buys a foam board airplane kit and say, good luck. No, they had a process in place to make it 100% likely that he would be able to successfully build that plane. They created speed build videos for every single kit. So my son could watch how it was done step by step and he could replicate it in his workspace. They had video trainings on how to use the transmitter, okay, so that he could actually learn how to fly the thing once he built it. They basically gave him the roadmap. They thought about all the different things that he would need to know before he could actually try to use the product. So, are you giving your customers kind of like an instruction manual to use your food, or are you just assuming that because they wanted to buy from you that they know exactly how to use it? I have so many people that join my CSA that have no idea how to make pesto or what to do with something like kohlrabi, right? And I have to train them. I have to train them or they're going to feel like this was a waste of money. So ask yourself, what is your customer's desired transformation? It's a powerful question and something you could probably talk to your business partner about. Really dive deep. It's not just, oh, I want a side of beef. No, what do they really want? Like, what else is driving that decision? And what are you doing to give that to them? So here's a customer of mine. I love this picture of her. I've used this in so many slides. Sarah Maynardi, and she's given me permission to use this picture, by the way. So she joined our CSA maybe like 3 years ago, and she was really green. Like she didn't know, she had just had a baby and she didn't really know how how to cook some of the stuff we were making. So this was a post that she threw into our Facebook group. She's like, carrot top hummus, so good. She's like, somebody had been talking about it, so she tried it. And look at how she talks about herself. Who am I that I made hummus from carrot tops? This is the best CSA ever, with all the support, guidance, and ideas. I used everything in my first box last week and successfully unboxed week 2 today. Thank you for the recipes and unboxing videos. Okay, there's so much information in that post right there, but you can see in between the lines, you can read what she's excited about. It's not just like, oh, this hummus tastes so good. I mean, yeah, that's cool, but she's feeling awesome about herself. I have given her power. I have given her confidence in the kitchen. I have helped her feel like she's achieved and learned something, right? And she even hints at how that happened. She gives credit to the fact that I guided her, that the community of this Facebook group gave her this idea, that the video unboxing that we do every week helped give her hints and tips for what to do, right? We walk her step by step through this experience each week. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, we need to create a simple roadmap, almost like a curriculum, to get them there. So, can you jot that down? Can you get a bunch of Post-it notes based on whatever your product is, and maybe identify like 5 things that your people could probably benefit from learning, and that would like blow open their experience of your product. And then just create a system. You build it one time and you reuse it. I have been teaching the same stinking stuff for the last 5 years in my Facebook group every year to my rookies, and it's okay. It's okay that it's the same stuff. Just build a system and teach it over and over again. So in my case, if I'm a vegetable farm, some of this would apply to you guys too if you have animals. I'm teaching things like storage tips. People don't know how to store the food I give them. I'm teaching them, these are the kitchen tools you need to have in your house if you want to be successful, if you want things to be a little bit easier in cooking vegetables. What would that be for you? These are the common, what I call exit strategies. Those cuts of beef, right, that people have in their freezer after 2 years, and they're like scared of it. Like, what do I do with that pig foot? Right. So how can you help them with those hard to use items so that they don't get stuck? Meal planning tips. You don't have to go crazy here. Just give them a small like roadmap. Like, here, try this and this, couple of ideas. People freak out when you give them recipes. Now, this is something that I got this idea from somewhere else. It's common in the digital marketing space to create a beginner's guide to something, whatever your topic is. So I took that on as a challenge one year, and I was like, what if I created this beginner's guide to CSA? Like, what are the tips and tricks for CSA success? And this is for a vegetable farm, right? And I give this to my members as part of their onboarding process. Now, it looks very fancy. Yes, because we designed it in Canva. Okay, super easy to do. If you don't know about Canva, it's a free graphic design tool that makes you look like a professional designer. So go to mydigitalfarmer.com/Canva. There's like a free training how to use it. But this particular document has been so helpful for my people. Again, an example of teaching people how to use the product. We do a live unboxing video each week in our Facebook group. Now, if you don't have a Facebook group, you could do a video, put it on YouTube or on Instagram. And what I love about this is it becomes a common language that everyone in the group identifies with, right? Like, we've all had this common experience of watching this video. And this is actually the piece of content that my members cite is the most valuable that I give them every week. So I stopped doing all the multiple. I used to do so much content. Now this is like the main thing I do, because this is what they told me they love the most. But could this work for you? We're going to talk about Facebook groups in a future webinar together, but this is a very popular thing. You could pick out one tip each week to put into your email newsletter. Or you could make it your blog post on your blog, or you could create a PDF cheat sheet like I did here. This took me about 30 minutes to make, and I have now used it for 5 years in a row. I had to make it once, and it lives on forever, right? So having little things like this can go a long way. So just think about, as you're thinking about how do I teach people how to use the product, think about delivering quick wins. What does a quick win look like? So can you teach people how to make vegetable broth or bone broth? Like, that's like a blow your mind exit strategy that I know when I learned it for the first time, I was like, oh my God, I mean, I don't have to buy like chicken broth ever again. No. So that could be a quick win for you guys. Or think of like, what are the hacks that I could share? What are the tips? Milestones. What are the milestones? Identify the key moments to reach that show a person progress. And when you talk about what those are from time to time, it helps the person know, oh, that's where I should be aiming now, right? So if we, for example, we tell people that it's normal to feel like you're wasting food, but after like 2 years, you're really good at it, right? So we've kind of normalized the learning curve, and we help people, kind of say, okay, I just have to wait 2 years. I have to wait 2 years, and I can get there. So show them what those key skills should be that they learn first too. And then coach them through mindset blocks. Like, what are the things that are holding people back? So in our case, it's veggie guilt. Like, I threw away all that stuff. And so we have to acknowledge it. We tell them, yeah, that's totally normal. You're supposed to experience that as a CSA member, and there is actually no way to avoid it. And so here's what you have to do to push through that wall, right? We coach them through that stuff. So think about, what are your mindset blocks that your customer is facing, acknowledge them and deal with them. Okay, so remember this picture, the excite phase. That's what this whole section is about. When you're teaching someone how to use the product, you're really hitting the excite phase, because if you can get them to achieve success and feel like, I'm amazing, I just did this, then guess what? They're going to come back and they're going to want to do it again and again and again, as long as you can keep that cycle moving. All right, I spent a lot of time on that strategy. They're not all that long, but let's move on to the next one. Strategy number 3 is for cultivating customers is to cultivate community. So belonging and affiliation drive loyalty big time. People like being a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And I actually think that this is probably the secret to our success. We've been around so long now that we have created this strong network of community and feeling of community support within our CSA tribe. People don't just buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so if you can tap into the why behind your business, that is incredibly inspiring for people. So initially people might come in and purchase our product because they want, the vegetables, or for you, maybe they want the meat. But if we can pull them into something deeper and actually help them make connections with other people like them, if they can find their tribe, as I like to say, this can be incredibly powerful for them. Now they don't feel alone. They feel like I've found my network, people who understand me, and they feel like they belong. Now, one of the ways that we have done this really well is a Facebook group. So if you have a Facebook group, or if you have enough customers to be able to create a Facebook group, um, I highly recommend it, because you'll find that it's a place where members, if you guide it well, it's a place where your members will actually inspire each other. And initially you have to do a little bit of work to get the ball rolling, but after that, people will do that for you. So, here's an example of a post that one of my customers shared. And yeah, like I didn't even know you could make homemade vegetable bouillon. Like this was new to me, right? And I'm the founder of the group. I'm a farmer. And I'm like, that's really awesome. And so here's an example of one of my own foodie CSA members who's adding value to our own community and making us all better. And now a bunch of people learned how to make this and are making this. So the phrase "you belong here," I want you to write that down. I want you to find a way to say that to one of your customers this week, because it's really powerful. I have a new customer. Her name's Clara. She joined my CSA this year as a sampler member. It's like a trial membership for our CSA. And she wanted to be a full season member so bad. I could just see it. And I felt like she was in our group. She's just making amazing things. Like, she is a hardcore foodie. The stuff she was making could have been on the cover of a magazine. It was beautiful. It was like words that I didn't even know how to pronounce. I've never seen them before. I was often looking them up in the dictionary. She's like all in. And I remember messaging her and saying, hey, thank you so much for sharing all your awesome ideas. And then I said this little sentence that at the time I didn't realize was so powerful, but I said, you know what, you totally belong here. And I just want you to imagine what that feels like. She told me later that that was really powerful. I want you just imagine what that would feel like if you were a customer and someone just acknowledged your gift, right? Acknowledged your passion and said something like, I'm so glad you're here. You totally belong in this group. Okay. So that is indicative of how this feeling of creating this community experience, this community feeling really does cultivate loyalty in customers. And so we want to try and find a way to stitch everyone together and help them experience that community. If you can pull that off, and it takes several years, but if you can pull that off, they will never leave. Your customers will never leave because it becomes bigger than you. Now they're a part of this huge network. They can't leave because they're bought into the whole thing. I like to be intentional to create this community. We do some fun things with our customers where we do challenges, we do goodwill campaigns where we fundraise. We do fun contests, and you can see a few examples here. I'll run these contests for 7 to 14 days, primarily in my Facebook group. People are posting all kinds of fun pictures, and then I will give somebody a really fun prize. One of my favorites is that Wonka golden ticket where we hid golden tickets in people's CSA boxes. There were 3 of them, and 3 lucky people found the golden ticket, made a big deal about it, and they got really cool stuff. Just imagine the fun and excitement that that makes, right? Now, suddenly, this product isn't just a box of vegetables, but it's the whole experience. Like it's the whole community. Like it's all this fun too, right? That's that excite phase that I'm trying to activate. Okay, let's move on to strategy number 4. Building and cultivating a connection with your customer to keep them around for the long term. It starts with connecting with a weekly email. And this is really big. I know some of you are groaning right now. I can sense it on the other side of the screen here. Um, and maybe some of you are saying, I am not a writer. I hate writing emails. I get it. I kind of don't like writing them either, to be honest. But I want to encourage you to learn how to write a good weekly email, because when you invest in the relationship with a weekly telegram like this, it really does create loyal customers. And I think the trick is learning how to write an email that isn't necessarily, hey, this is what we have for sale this week. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to read an email like that every week either. So, what we want to do is create content in these weekly emails that builds the KLT factor. And this is a buzzword in the marketing world. It stands for the know, like, and trust factor. We want to be sharing not just our business and what we have for sale and what's new, but we want to be sharing our life with them. We want to show some of the different sides of our life, the quirks we have in our personalities. Something funny that happened last week. I often like to tell stories about being a mom or being a homeschooler, or what my dog did this past week, or a challenge that I'm facing, because it humanizes me, and the people that read it then feel a connection. They're like, oh, I've felt that way before too, and now there's just a different relationship there. So, what do you talk about in these weekly emails? Well, sometimes there is absolutely nothing salesy in my email at all. There's not even a link to the store. I'll tell stories about my life. I'll try to be helpful and share a tip or a hack. Like last week, I did a bunch of cauliflower rice where I just took the cauliflower heads and pulsed them in the food processor until they look like couscous. And later on, I cook them and they taste kind of like couscous. People don't know you can even do that, right? So I just share that hack. I love to share parables. So if you can think of a story that happened to you and then pull out the nugget of wisdom, like be the wise farmer that they kind of think you are, live into that identity. They love that stuff. And in fact, today, well, this wasn't really an example of a wise farmer, but today I sent my weekly email. And what I did was I put a picture of my son, Jed, in it. And I talked about how he is applying for the Toledo Aviation School. And I referenced some of these pictures of him flying those airplanes, and just how excited he was, how nervous he is because we might not get in, how it's going to really change our farming workflow if he does get in, because it's going to be a huge commitment. Yeah, and I just kind of bared my soul as a mom, and I've gotten 8 responses so far. Nope, who responds to weekly newsletter emails? Like people do when you tell these kinds of stories. Okay, so this is how you build connection. Now you're more than than just a person selling them food or selling them a product, but like you have a connection and a relationship with them. Okay. That's a really great strategy that I'm a big believer in. Strategy number 5 is to create surprise and delight moments. So how can we leave a lasting impression? We want to, we want to surprise someone. Everybody comes into your business with certain expectations of what it's going to be like. And when you exceed them and do something so over the top, that's when they go, wow, right? We want to create a wow. We want to create what I call moments of magic. So amaze your customers, go above and beyond. So let me just give some examples of what this looks like for us. We learn people's names. Now, with a 400 member CSA, that's really important to us that our customers feel like we know each of them. They're not just a number moving through our system. We have people actually tell us that this matters to them, that we actually know who they are. And this is how I learned them. I make them hold up a picture and then I study these photos for the first 2 weeks. We write our customers' notes. I actually systematize this and I have a huge list of my customers. Of course, I don't get to all of them in 1 year. I might get to 30, but I just have a running list and I'm trying to look for opportunities to encourage people. If you want to take a screenshot of that, feel free and you can copy the words exactly, but show gratitude, show them the why behind your business and how they fit into that. These are really, really, really powerful. Here's an example of Sweet Root Farms version. They actually sent this to me and he typed it all out. So this is kind of a form letter, but notice how he actually wrote a little note, a personal note underneath, and that made it personal. That was really sweet. We surprise customers with gifts. So can you find something that's kind of at a lower price point, but that still feels special, and give that to your customers as a surprise? We have an add-on share, an ice cream add-on share, and people love this ice cream. Not everybody gets the share though, and so I often I do buy 5 additional ice cream shares per week just for me to give away to customers. So every week, 5 different people are getting a pint of ice cream. Now, this is probably a cost of $4 per person for me. It might be $3 for wholesale costs, but again, I'm going to go back to that earlier slide where I talked about it's more expensive to acquire a brand new customer than to keep a new one. So if I'm spending $3 on this customer to wow them, and that's all it takes for 1 year to make them feel noticed, and I've just locked them in for life, yes, I will absolutely pay $3. Farm dinners are also really powerful ways. So if you can engineer these once in a lifetime memories, farm dinners kind of fall into that category. We do some that are indoor in the winter like this in our greenhouses, and we have several that are out in our field, the long table types of things. Those can be really powerful too. And then just over deliver whenever possible. Now, I can't do this kind of thing that's in this slide for everyone, but I had a customer who posted in my group about how she tried to can tomatoes for the first time and it was an utter fail. She was so devastated. She had purchased a ton of tomatoes from me too, bulk tomatoes. So she lost that investment. And I saw that and I wrote back to her and I said, "You're coming over to my house in 2 days. I'll replace the tomatoes and I'm going to teach you how to do it." So there she is in my kitchen. I showed her how to do it. She went home. I gave her new tomatoes and she felt like $1,000,000, right? I know you can't do that for everyone, but every now and then, if there is a way, I was going to do tomatoes anyway. So I'm like, just come over, right? And this ended up making an impression not only on her, now she's like locked in for life, but all the other people who saw this post and were like, wow, my farmers do this kind of thing. That's awesome. Okay, so over deliver, trying to create moments of magic. And some of that is very spontaneous, but some of it is actually systematized. Okay. So these are just ideas. I know you can't do all of these strategies, guys. I'm just trying to give you different ways to think about how you can cultivate that customer, how you can coach them through these stages and get them to turn loyal. Strategy number 6, this is going to sound strange. This actually works though. Ask them to buy more things from you. This actually creates loyalty, all right? Because your products solve their problem. It helps them meet that inner need, right? If you're doing a good job and you deliver a quality product and you're doing that excite phase well, like they want more of this. You're helping them. achieve whatever it is that they're looking for. Do you remember this picture, right? That ladder, my friends, the ascend phase. Oh my gosh, this is where you make your profit in your business. You have to master the ascension phase. You have to have more things in your product suite to offer the people once they buy the first thing. Okay, now what can I give you? Now can I give you? So it's not just repeating the same thing. Oh, I'm buying a side of beef again. Okay, great. We want them to do that, but like, what else can I give them in between? Like in the next few months, right? Come up with other packages, other offers. And this is the magic. When you ask people to ascend, they will, that's what they actually need you to do that in order to turn into a loyal customer. So don't be afraid of being salesy. Like my son Jed is the super fan that he is because he has purchased like 18 of their kits, right? He feels like he's collecting them now, like he's bought in to that identity. And that wouldn't have happened if you'd only bought one thing from them. So don't be afraid to ask people to buy more things. Your customer wants to support you more. So you must ask them to buy more stuff if you want them to ascend through the stages. And for some of you, that may mean that you actually have to create more things in your product suite. We had that problem. We just had a CSA box and we didn't sell, like we had a farmer's market, but like it wasn't until a few years ago where we started offering an online store each week to our CSA members for them to add on other stuff. And we just brought it as an online store order and gave it to them in addition to their box. Now we are making so much more revenue because we're offering them more things, even in the middle of the CSA season. Okay, I've got two more strategies. Strategy number 7. Let's talk about this. Embrace moments of misery as opportunities and turn them into moments of magic. Now, I can't do a webinar about, amazing customer service if I don't talk about this moment when you have, a disappointment, when a customer is disappointed and they didn't get what they wanted or you made a mistake. So we need to understand that mistakes will happen in your business. So I give you all permission to make mistakes. In fact, you won't be able to avoid it. So stop beating yourself up when it happens, because it happens. And the more customers you have, like I have a 425 member CSA. There is no way I'm going to get it right every single week. There's going to be something that goes wrong. And I've just learned, the statistics will tell me that. So how you handle these mistakes, though, can actually turn a customer into a lifer. And that's been a big aha moment for us, especially this year. So we had a scenario where, a customer ordered something from the online store and it just, when it showed up at their site, it was missing like half the items weren't in the bag. And so they reached out to me through an email and they said, hey, this is what happened. You could tell they were a little bummed. And I responded with this particular response. I said, okay, I will replace that product tomorrow. I will drive it all the way out there. So in this case, it was a 40-minute drive for me, or I will refund. I told them this is the option. I can either refund you right now, or I can send one of my team members or myself out to replace it. Then not only did I do that, but I gave them $10 in store credit. Okay. And when they came to get their stuff the next week, the next CSA week, I put a little freebie into their box, something that was noticeably different, and just said, sorry for the mistake. Okay. I did 3 things. And I do this almost all the time now with mistakes like that. And you're probably thinking, holy cow, that's like over the top. And yes, it is. It is over the top service because I have discovered that when I do that, this actually turns them into a lifer. And so again, I'm willing to spend a little bit of money in order to so impress them that it keeps them around. I don't often make the same mistake again with this customer, right? It's usually a one-time thing. So I want to use this as a chance to just show them I value you. I see you. I'm going to do whatever I can to say I'm sorry. So amazing customer service, how to handle moments of misery. Here is just kind of some best practices that I've learned from people that I follow. Number 1 is that you want to apologize. You want to just take responsibility. Yes, I made a mistake. And I found that many customers are actually expecting me to like defend myself and find a reason why I made the mistake. And even if they kind of made a mistake, I'll just say like, you know what? I'm sorry this happened. And then my second step is that I provide an immediate temporary solution. I tell them what I'm going to do right now to fix it so that they have some kind of fix in the next 24 hours. And then I give them a step. I say, hey, I'm going to resolve this problem permanently. I almost say, thank you for pointing this out to me because you've showed me there's a broken link in my system. And I'm going to figure out a way to make sure this doesn't happen like this again. Okay. And now they almost feel like they've been a part of building your business and making it better. So those are kind of the three prongs that I follow when I try to handle those kinds of issues. So for what it's worth, I wanted to do a section in this webinar about when you make customer mistakes. I don't think of them as a bad thing anymore. I actually think of them as like, oh, yes, I have an opportunity to like totally crush it with awesome customer service right now and wow the socks off of them. All right, my last strategy before we wrap up is to ask for a 5-star review. This is a way that we create loyal customers. This is how we turn them into super fans. Leaving a testimonial, this is actually based on brain science, okay? Leaving a testimonial literally changes your customer's brain neurons. I don't know how they studied this, but they studied it. So remember this picture of the customer value journey. The advocate stage is actually a stage that you coach people through. If you want them to turn into a brand ambassador for you and reach that promoter stage, you want to cultivate them into that amazing fan, you have to encourage them to start talking you up. You have to get them to say, I love you. I love this farm. You're amazing. Now, here's what's so interesting when you study psychology of sales, marketing, persuasion, influence. Psychology research has shown that humans have a bias towards remaining consistent with their commitments. There have been all kinds of like experiments done on people that show this. So what this means, it sounds very fancy language, but what this means is if someone says, I like XYZ, and then go on and on about it, and then even if that person suddenly disappoints them, it's very hard for them to go back and say, I no longer like this person, because then it's almost like it shows that they had bad judgment, right? So that people don't want to believe that they made a wrong choice, and they will work very hard to justify why you're still awesome, even if there was a mess up. And it's because humans have a bias towards remaining consistent with their prior commitments. So we want to get people to make a commitment to us. We want to coach the testimonial so that this is locked and loaded. All right. So one of the ways that we do this is, yes, you could just say, hey, leave me a testimonial, or you could put a question post in your Facebook group that essentially gets them to type out a comment that is essentially a testimonial. Or you could actually ask them to go and leave you a review on Google. Okay, which I do from time to time. You could even build it into your system, into your workflow, so that reviews happen on a regular basis. Next year, we are putting a QR code on a sticker of a QR code on all of our CSA bins. And when they hover their camera over the QR code, it will take them to the Google review for our business. So think of ways like that you can try and encourage more people to walk through this doorway in the customer journey. Your customers will become more and more loyal as they continue to tell people how much they love you. I'm telling you, it's brain science. So lead into that and build a system around it. Okay, let's wrap this up. Your homework from today's session. I just gave you a ton of information, probably overwhelmed some of you. My goal is not to make you think you have to do them all, not by any means. I wanted to give you a ton of options, okay? And I want to just challenge you. What if you spent more energy on coaching your customer's journey this year, right? On cultivating the ones you already have into super fans. And so maybe pick 1 or 2 strategies that you're like, totally doable. I can do that. And put that into your to-do list for the winter and get that system built so that you can execute it for whenever your next season kind of ramps up again. Okay. That's sort of my challenge to you. All right. Well, that's all I have. And I just want to say thank you for letting me be here today. I will be back for 2 more webinar sessions. And I want to encourage you to follow me to learn more marketing tips. You can get on my email list and by going to mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. And I drip out like 10 awesome little marketing nuggets over the course of 2 or 3 months to you every week in an email. So the best of my stuff. You can also listen to my podcast, the My Digital Farmer podcast. And you can look on the slide here. I have an Instagram, I have a Facebook group as well, and a website. So that is the end. We're going to move to questions now. So let me exit my full screen.
Thank you, Corinna. That was really wonderful.
Awesome.
Great slides. So folks, if you do have questions for our presenter, you may type them into that chat bar on the left-hand side of your screen, and we will read them, or folks will be able to see them as well. I know there were a couple that came in on the registration forms. Well, I can kind of see if any of those would be good to ask right now. So someone was wondering, first of all, is it a good idea, and how would you go about doing this? But getting customer input about what they would want, for example, out of a CSA, especially if you're starting up a CSA. But I guess that could be applied to, other offerings at your farm as well. Is that a strategy that you have used in the past?
So if you're just getting started, it's often difficult to know who is my ideal customer, right? Like, what do they want from me? And there's a little bit of throwing spaghetti on the wall. Like, I'm going to put this out into the world and see if people like it. So some of that is kind of a necessary process when you're beginning your business. But I do feel like it's good to find almost like a focus group. So for in our case, when we started a CSA, we started small. We only had like 10 to 12 people. And we reached out to friends of our family. We had some people we didn't know, but we reached out to people that we trusted and said, we just really need your feedback as we go through this for a year. And will you be willing to be our guinea pigs? We want you to tell us when it's bad or what part of it you really love, right? So if you do something like that, I wouldn't recommend doing like a long 18-week kind of thing. Maybe try to do a shorter trial run with a group of people so that you can get that input a little bit faster. So maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and then get that feedback. Don't be afraid to actually talk to people on the phone as opposed to just doing a survey. I mean, surveys are really powerful. If you have the right questions that you ask, you can then see it in written form, and you can kind of more easily analyze the common responses. But I like to actually talk to people on the phone and really hear the tone of voice, follow their stories a little bit further, and ask follow-up questions to try and understand what is it that you really value. What you're trying to get at when you're building out these first products is what problem can I solve for you? And or if it's not a problem, you're either solving a problem or you're meeting a desire for someone. So what is that deep down desire that you're hoping my product will meet for you? And maybe I have to tweak my product so that it better answers what they're looking for. So that's kind of my first thought as you ask me that question. The first few years, like, you're making so many iterations to your product. You're making it better and better. And that's absolutely normal. You should test it on a few people and then continue to refine it. But don't wait until it's perfect before you launch it out into the world. Like, you do need to get your what I call the shitty rough draft out into the world and just see what happens with it.
Yeah, and just knowing that it's a work in progress, and it's always evolving, right? I imagine. Yeah. Thank you for that. So we have a question that came in the chat bar. Tell us what you say when people say they don't want to waste food in their CSA box.
Yeah, so everyone feels that way. So I address that before they say it, before they think it. It's a part of our customer onboarding process when someone first joins the CSA. We begin to talk about that very early. Because in the first few weeks, people are like really excited about the box, and they actually, many of them find a way to use everything in the first 2 weeks because they're just like really all in and bought in and jazzed about it. And then it's maybe like week 4 where they hit the wall. So we warn them the wall is coming, even if you think it isn't, so that when it happens, they don't feel like they're a failure. They don't feel like, what's wrong with me? In fact, because we have a Facebook community where so many people are active and other people corroborate this warning that we give to people, they're like, yeah, like, listen to what she says. That happened to me too. Yep, happened to me. Push through it. Like, when they hear those voices from all around them, it's like, oh, okay, I should expect this, and I just have to, there's nothing wrong with me, right? I think that's the reason why people give up. If they feel that, they're like, oh, not only is it a bummer that I'm wasting food, like, that's a problem for them too, but it's even worse is like, I'm a failure. Like, there must be something wrong with me that I can't do this. So when we normalize the learning curve on the front end and say, hey, this is supposed to happen and you can't really avoid it, here's what you're going to do in between to try and just push through. You've got to learn, like, these 3 exit strategies are going to be really helpful, and do the best you can by executing them. But if you throw some stuff out, like, give yourself some grace, because every year you're going to get a little better at it. So we're warning them on the front end, but we're also coaching them with the exit strategies throughout the season to say, hey, here's what you do. Are you getting sick of peppers? Do you have 8 billion peppers right now in your fridge? Okay, well, chop them up. Don't try to eat them this week. Just chop them up and put them in the freezer and just get them out of your mind, right? And you'll thank me in January when the red peppers are like $4 a pound at the store and you're getting them for free, right? So yeah, but we just we have to do both. We have to warn them up on the front end, and then we have to coach them, give them the tips during the season itself.
Excellent. I had a question that came in. It is about kind of how the roles and how to delegate certain tasks, but how do you, or exactly, excuse me, do you farm out the social media technical computer work? And if not, how do you master each form? So how would you kind of suggest or recommend folks go ahead and who either are starting out on social media or wanting to kind of ramp up their presence?
So this is not necessarily about a CSA. I'm sorry, this is not about a Facebook group. This is about on the front end. Is that what you're talking about, Larissa?
It's not specific to Facebook group. I think it's just
Okay.
overall social media. Do you ask other? Are you
Yeah.
doing it all yourself? Are you having other
Yeah.
people do it for you? How do you go about that?
Okay. I do it all myself, and some of it I schedule, but I leave room for being in the moment as well. And um, I think what I first want to say is that the role of social media, in my opinion, in that marketing framework that I taught you, is the awareness phase and the engagement phase. Like, that's really where it shines. It attracts your ideal client to be like, huh, they look interesting. Oh, this is cool. This is what they do. And maybe you even like suggest or hint or talk about the things that you do sell. But I don't see Facebook or even Instagram necessarily as a great place to actually sell my products. It's more just to introduce my brand and who I am and my personality, and get them on my email list. That's where I'm going with this. Like, the goal of social media is to get people on your email list so that you can build a relationship with that fun weekly email, right? It might take 5 months for someone to finally buy from you, okay? But getting them on the email list is the goal of social media, in my opinion. So I do spend time um, putting a strategy together for that. Mostly, it's around I do usually like a weekly video where I'm highlighting something that's going on the farm, so telling the story of the farm, or I will use Instagram stories a lot to try and connect with the customer and share what's going on in my life. And I don't have someone doing that for me, but that's just because I really want to be in control of the messaging that I'm putting out there into the world. So if you're getting started on social media, I think you need to ask yourself, where is my customer hanging out? So, um, for me, it's on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not moving into TikTok. Maybe I will someday, but if your customer base is on TikTok, I guess you could create TikTok videos. You just have to know, where are my people hanging out, and what is it that they want to hear from me and see from me. What this is getting back to, like, knowing your ideal client, knowing those Stephanies of your business. Like, what is it, the stuff that she loves that I talk about? What is the stuff that she values? And I'm trying to get more Stephanies. So I'm going to talk about the things that I know would attract her, who would interest her when I'm putting my messages up.
Awesome. All right, let's see. We have time for just a couple more questions. Also a question about, what are the ways you increase the size of your CSA?
I don't want to increase the size of my CSA. But how would you? Okay, so if I did,
Have you always been at that level, I guess, is that
no,
the
I have
question?
not. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we started out with 12 and we doubled in size every year until we hit 400, 450. And so the fastest way to acquire new customers, in my opinion, is to use the customers you already have and ask them to talk about your product with their friends. So we don't do this anymore, but in the early stages, that's how we grew our CSA so quickly, is we had a referral system, and we gave a reward to the person who referred us, as well as the person who was referred. And that incentive, I think, was necessary the first time around. After a while, I think people would have done it without the incentive. But just think about that. Like, your customers likely hang out with people that also value the same things they do. That's just how humans are. And so they probably know where those people are that you're trying to find. So lean into that and ask them to help you find more of them. The second thing that I would bring up, if you're trying to find more customers for a CSA or any other product for that matter, is I would be leveraging the power of Google reviews and just your Google My Business page in general. So if you don't know about the Google My Business listing, you should educate yourself on that. It's called the GMB, or the Google My Business listing. You probably all have a GMB listing and maybe you don't know it. You can claim it and populate it with the important information about your business so that Google knows what it is that you do. If somebody is going to the search bar and typing something out, what are they typing into that search bar to find a business like yours? That's what you need to understand, and that's what you need to put into that Google My Business listing. But one of the ways that your farm will rise to the top in the Google search listings, if someone's looking for you, is if you have a bunch of reviews. So I would make that a priority too, is get as many Google reviews as you possibly can. Build a system to collect Google reviews in your business, and that will skyrocket you to the top of the search rankings.
Great, thank you. I'll just take one more question. I know folks might have some follow-up questions for Corinna, and I'll be sure to CC her on our follow-up email. But the last question for right now is, do you use texting reminders, promo information, etc., in your strategies?
I don't use texting, but I think you could. I know of other farms that do, and do it with great success. This is a little bit over the top for me, so that's why I don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't need to do it, and so I'm always trying to do um, the bare. I don't want to say bare minimum, but I don't want to create work for me just for the sake of having super duper marketing. Um, but yes, you can create things like text message reminders. So this is just taking care of your customers you already have, right? Like if you have a CSA pickup, you could have some kind of a reminder that goes out and lets them know, don't forget to pick up. And you could set that up. But there are also text like marketing strategies where you can set up bots that like will follow a certain pathway if somebody types in something, and you can collect their email address and then send them a lead magnet or follow up with them with, hey, this is now what I have to offer. If you like this, then you'll probably like this. Definitely something to explore. If you watch, so many of the younger demographic is on text right now. And so if that is your person, then yes, you should definitely look into that.
Excellent. All right. Well, I do have just a few housekeeping items I'd like to mention before we sign off. There will be a very short survey that's going to pop up on your screen after this webinar ends. Please take a minute to give us your feedback and how you might use this information and give us some ideas for future topics. Also, a recording of the webinar and the slides will be available soon. They're going to be archived on our website, and I will also email those links to you tomorrow in the morning. Quick plug for all of the opportunities that FACT has coming up this fall. We have a fantastic webinar coming up next week about raising heritage breed poultry. And then Corinna will be back with us several more times this fall for taking a deeper dive into some of the topics that she touched on today, including farm newsletters and then also more information about Facebook groups. So we are accepting applications to participate in our financial training through Sunday, October 31st. Don't forget about that. We also have scholarships to conferences, trainings, and other educational events. So please keep that in mind as you're planning ahead for the coming months. I will be sure to send out links to all of those opportunities in my follow-up email. So I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. A sincere thank you to you, Corinna. It's really been a pleasure to listen to you, and I learned a ton myself, and I look forward to having you back with us next month. And thank you to everyone out in the audience for taking the time to join us, your attention and your interest. It's always great to have you and to see the questions that come in. I hope that we're all able to stay in touch and that we connect again soon. So enjoy the rest of your day and your week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.